Hi guys, Miss Nicole here with the Kids at the Library Science Shenanigans. Hope you guys are looking forward to St. Patrick's Day, because I know certainly I am. So when you pick up your kit from here in the library, you're going to find there's a lot of supplies, because we've got a couple experiments we're going to try out today, and we're going to start with our walking water experiment. And the reason we're starting with this one is because it can take a little bit of time for the experiment to actually be finished and see the results. So I'm hoping by the end of the video, I'll be able to show you guys at least the start of results. You're going to pull out of your kit the instructions, and behind the instructions you're going to find just a little form to fill out that'll basically let you do your predictions or your hypothesis of what you think will happen. And then we'll also have a chance to record the results from our experiment, because it's not really science if we're not recording it. You'll also find that you're going to have 3 empty containers, and then you'll have 3 containers with a lid on them that have little drops of blue food coloring. What you're going to do is you're actually going to add 2 tablespoons of water, or just about up to that line. And that will allow you to start out with the 3 primary colors. We have red, yellow, and blue. And we are going to arrange these in a circle where there'll be a colored one, an empty one, a colored one, an empty one, all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up a little bit on here for me. And then I am going to tilt the camera so that you can see my setup. So let's go for a ride. Woo! Okay, you guys can see my little circle here with everything in between. Now that that is set up, we're actually going to find that there are 6 pieces of paper towels in your kit as well. And we are going to fold these into little strips, because the full paper won't fit. You can see I kind of folded mine like 3 times, and then I'm going to give it a little crease in the middle, because that'll help us in just a moment. And I'm going to go ahead and do that for all 6 of these, and I'll see you guys right back here. Alright guys, so we should all have 6 of these little folded pieces of paper. Now we're going to turn to that walking water experiment that we were talking about. So we're actually going to make our hypothesis, and my hypothesis, partly because I know the answer already, is written up above, and it basically talks about how I think the water is going to move along the pieces of paper towel, and that I actually think we're going to get more than just the original primary colors. I think when the red and the yellow mix, that will get orange, and when the yellow and the blue mix, we'll get green. And then I drew a little picture of what I think is going to happen. So you can see my little paper towels as they pull the color in, and then they'll start to mix, and you can see the purple starting to rise up the little paper towels. I'm going to leave the bottom part blank, because that's where we fill in when we're finished with our experiment. So for now, I'm going to start by taking off all of the colored lids. Be careful, blue in particular really likes to stain your hands. I found that out the hard way today, so I'm a little blue without meaning to. Now that I've got all my lids off, I'll tilt the camera down so you can kind of see what we're looking at right here. Go for a ride. There we go. Awkward angle, but you can see all the lids are off. And now I'm going to take my paper towels, and I'm actually going to start with 1 in each of them. So one end of it is going to go into the solid color, and one end is going to go into the empty one. Then you're going to move to the next one. In fact, I'll keep you guys tilted for this. It might be a little easier to see. You can see I started with my yellow in the yellow and then part in the blank. Now I'm going to move and put this one part in the red. I'm sorry, 2 hands are always helpful. And then part in the blank one. And then I'm going to keep going around the circle. So eventually you'll have 2 pieces of paper towel sticking out of every single container. So let's keep going. That one goes into my blue. And don't worry if you don't see anything happening immediately, because that is part of why we're doing this experiment first, to give us time to come back to it. So I'm going to tilt it down so you guys can see. We already are seeing some of the water, especially the color part, moving up our pieces of paper towels. Now some of you guys might be wondering, why on earth would water be able to go against gravity and move straight up? And well, that's actually a really good question, because what we're going to be looking at is called capillary action. And basically it's something you'll often see in plants, where we water their roots, but the water goes all the way up into the plants because they are flowing up the different capillary pieces in the plant's fibers. And now paper towels are made from plant fibers, because they're a type of cellulose. And so for our walking water experiment, what we're seeing is the colored water moving up the same plant fibers that you would find in a regular plant. So it's following that same behavior. Now we're going to go ahead and set this aside, and we're actually going to move on to our Skittles experiment, because we're going to come back to this one and take a look at it when we're all done. For this one, you're going to notice in your kit, you actually have 2 containers of Skittles. One that we're going to open and use to set up our experiment, and the other one is for snacking. Because I know I can't help it. When I see Skittles, I definitely want to eat some. So go ahead and open up your Skittles, guys, and we are going to start putting them on a plate and arranging them in a circle. So I'm going to pause for just a second while we both get ours arranged, and I'll show you what mine looks like. Alrighty, guys, so it's not going to be a big circle on your plate because these are just small things of Skittles, but I'm going to tilt the camera down to show you guys. You can see my little circle here. And then in this little circle, actually going to add is some hot water, well, warm water. It doesn't need to be boiling hot. We definitely don't want to hurt our hands. In fact, turning on your faucet and getting the warm water out of there is the perfect temperature to make this work. But you do definitely need to use the warm water. It just works a lot better. So I'm actually going to use one of my measuring pieces here because it's going to make it really easy to move the water along. So what we're going to do is actually scoop our water, and we're going to gently pour it around the edges of our Skittles. So here, I'll tilt the camera so you guys can kind of watch me as I go along. Move that out of the way. Got my warm water here in a mug. And then I'm going to start pouring it right along the edges here. You might need a little more. Keep pouring. Oh, some of you guys might be able to see what's happening. In fact, it's kind of going the other direction, but that's okay. It's part of science. We all learn. I think a regular plate would actually work a lot better. But what you guys are seeing here is the colors are moving together when I put the warm water on. And you guys might be wondering why. Well, Skittles are coated with sugar and food coloring. And when we added the warm water, the sugar and food coloring started to dissolve. And so what we're seeing is that because there are similar amounts of sugar and food coloring, they dissolve at the same rate, which means they move. And now some of us have talked about this type of science before in classroom, where you're going to talk about things moving from a high concentration area, meaning there's lots of sugar and food coloring right here, but in the other parts of your plate, there is no sugar and there is no food coloring. That's why they've actually moved away. And we can keep adding a little more water, see if we can see the little pattern better. In fact, when you do it, you're welcome to put yours in any color pattern you want. And the best part about this, once we're finished, you can still eat those Skittles too, because there's nothing wrong with them. They're just warm now and kind of wet. Alrighty, guys, we're going to move on to how to make some gold glittery slime next. Alright, guys, so in your kits, you're going to find there's already some slime made, and you can see there's some fun sequins and glitter, and of course, gold coins, because after all of these rainbow experiments, we definitely need to find ourselves a little pot of gold at the end. If you guys are interested in learning how to make this slime, it is super easy. In fact, I think there's only 4 ingredients that you'll actually need. Woo, I kind of stretched mine a little too hard. I've been playing with mine a lot, so it's drying out just a little. But that's okay. That's part of the fun of it, isn't it? So what we're going to start out with is our ingredients. We're going to need some clear glue if you want to make it clear. If you want it to be white, you can use regular white glue. You definitely don't need this much, I promise. You're also going to need some baking soda. Doesn't need to be this big of a container either. You're going to need some saline solution, like eye solution, and then you're going to need some glitter, as well as some fun little add-ins. So what we're going to do here is actually, that's the right one, we're going to start measuring our ingredients. And what we're looking at is 4 ounces of glue, which can seem like kind of a weird number, and what that actually equals out to is ½ a cup. So if you have a ½ cup measuring piece, you can go ahead and pour your glue in right up to the edge, and then I'm gonna pour it in my plastic container. I always found this to be kind of fun, and if you have a lot of glue that seems to be super stuck on there, since that's what it's supposed to do, I like to use what's going to be my stirring spoon to help scrape off the extra glue. Once we got that in there, put my spoon and my measuring cup aside, what we're going to mix next is actually the baking soda. And so for your baking soda, you're going to need ½ a tablespoon, my goodness, I can talk, ½ a tablespoon. So this big one is our tablespoon, and you're only going to need half of it. Certain kits come with a half measuring one, some of them don't, so I'm going to use the half one since it's here. And I'm going to actually just scoop it, make it nice and level at the top because we don't need too much. And then I'm going to drop it on top of my glue. And now that we've got those two ingredients in there, we're actually going to start mixing those together first. So let me put my glue aside and my baking soda, and then grab my spoon and start stirring. You guys might be able to see that the baking soda is actually mixing in. It's giving it almost a little bit of a white complexion, but don't worry, it's not going to be super dark. Now we get to add our glitter. Now our recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of glitter or sequins, and you're able to put as much or as little as you want in there. I'm going to dump this whole container in, and then I'm going to add some of my fun sequins, because they kind of look like gold coins to me too. And you're going to see it's all sitting on top of this, and we're going to actually start stirring that in and getting it all nice and mixed up. One of my favorite things with glitter in slime is that it's pretty easy to clean up. Most of the time glitter gets everywhere and it's kind of a hot mess, which makes it way less appealing of a craft item. But with our lucky little slime recipe here, you won't have to worry about that. So once we've got it well mixed together, we're actually going to move on to our saline eye contact solution. And so for this, we're actually going to need, pop that open, 1 full tablespoon of contact solution. And this is basically our activator. This is what's going to turn this sticky, icky, shiny glue into slime that we want to play with. So I'm going to go ahead and fill it up. It'll take a little moment. And once we get it all the way to the top, there we go. We can actually go ahead and just dump it right in our container. Perfect. And now we're going to start stirring with our spoon. And you might notice, it's kind of hard to see from this angle, but a lot of the contact solution is very liquidy and still on top of the slime. So we're going to start mixing that in until the slime starts to get a little thicker. In fact, you might be able to see it's less like glue now, and it's starting to be more like slime. Now I've got that mixed pretty darn well. It's still a little icky sticky, but I think we're almost at the point where we're going to start handling it. And this is a tip that I found works really, really well. If I put some contact solution on my hands and rub it around, it doesn't stick to me as bad when I first pull it out. And this is really helpful because you guys probably know when you first make slime, it's extra icky sticky. And so part of what makes it less sticky is the more you play with it. So as I'm rolling it and turning it, you'll notice it's getting a little less sticky and runny and a little more like slime. There we go. Getting a good stretch out of this one, which is perfect. And this is kind of the consistency you want your slime to be. And there's so many fun ways to use slime and to play with slime. It's another one of those non-Newtonian fluids, which basically means it's not really a solid, even though it looks and sits like a solid, but it's not really a liquid, even though you could have it run and drip like a liquid could. So it's non-Newtonian, which basically means it doesn't really follow the laws that we use to decide if something's a liquid or a solid. But I think that makes it all the more special for us. Well guys, I hope you had fun doing some science shenanigans with me, because I had fun doing them with you guys, and I'll see you next time. Thank you!